All right, Monday, July 1st, 2024. Here's first episode back. There's a companion video where I'm explaining where I've been. Um but we're gonna go into one, and I titled this Insubordination. So that's what it really is about. To start with, our Special Olympics basketball program did very well up at Penn State here in the beginning of June, about a month ago, 3 4 weeks ago. But what it was is kind of fool's gold in a sense that we had one player basically bailing us out. He's such a good player. The rest of the team had no continuity on offense. They weren't really getting after it on defense the way that I'm accustomed to teaching it. And we'll get into why that is in just a moment. That's where the insubordination is. Who knew? Um, but they did get the gold medal up there. We were in the fourth highest division. Should have been higher with the talent that we have. And then our 3-on-3 team got a bronze in that area, and they did very well given the type of talent that they had. But we underperformed from a standpoint of the eye test. Now, the one player we have that's really, really good bailed us out the whole tournament. 2-day tournament. He shouldn't have had to do that. Okay? Really bothered me. So, let's start with where the insubordination is. The way that we structure our program, we have 5-on-5, we have 3-on-3, we have basic skills. A lot of the basic skills kids, and then it can be kids all the way up to age 80. They're fairly low cognitively, so they just basically do a time dribble, shooting from certain parts on the lane, and doing a pass against the wall that they have to catch. So it's very basic stuff. It was level 1 stuff that we had up there. But we also have a middle cognitive contingent. We put them on a half court 3-on-3, and they were pretty good. They did well because they listened. But you have one voice hitting that group, and they did okay. If they're medium cognitives, they need to be taught a lot of repetition, and it's very difficult to reach them. Where the fool's goal comes in is the 5-on-5. I'm the general manager of the whole thing. I make all the personnel decisions. Okay? And our 5-on-5, we've got some cognitives, highly cognitive people that could even go out and live on their own. Some of them, they're not really there. And we didn't have the number of coaches to have 2 teams because there's a ratio of 4 athletes for every coach. So I have a coach who really likes himself. And amazingly, it's not me. So he started to try to take over the program. He didn't want the whole program. He didn't want any responsibility. None. He didn't want any paperwork. Once he leaves the gym, he doesn't want to be bothered with anything. But at the same time, he wanted to have a peeing contest with me. I'll just say it's a pissing contest with me throughout the entire season. About halfway through, we had it out in a very nice way. And how disrespectful that was, and that he's pretty close to getting dismissed. Which he was surprised you can get dismissed from a position like this, but absolutely. So I was pretty nice. What I made a judgment at that point that given that I would come in with a written practice plan. He would laugh at it. He'd roll his eyes at it. He would not coach it. So if I had to move around and help on 3-on-3 or help with the skills, I kind of have to rove sometimes if a certain coach doesn't show up or whatever. But any given practice, we're sitting there for 2 hours. I'm going back and forth. I'm not consistently with any group, and that's kind of the way it has to be. But what happens is he takes upon himself just to decide what he just wants to completely revamp everything. You see, if he did that in his regular job to his boss, that's me, he'd have been fired instantly. I had times where I had wanted to bring all the unit to the whole program to the center of the court and talk to them at the end as they're stretching. He would purposely hold the 5-on-5 kids at the other end of the gym and literally tell them, you don't have to listen to him. So that gives you a little bit of preface to what the situation was. So here's what I do. Being that I have two fully formed and well-functioning testicles, and the fact that I have absolutely no issues with my own ability. Okay? I also have compassion. I also believe in the fact that these athletes are the least capable of handling a civil war or a lot of these issues. I mean, if we put these issues in front of them, it would have really upset them to the point some might quit, but they'd get confused. So he was teaching them in ways that were very confusing to them. He was using buzzwords, teaching them like neurotypicals, because he thinks they are. They're not. The entire team was very, 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 very confused. To the point that we got to and we got to the middle of the season, and I'm like, okay, the disrespect's enough. You're not as good as you think you are. They're really, really confused. And he's like, okay, well, we'll find a way to work together. I'm like, well, it's nicely said, but what happened is the rest of the season, I kind of made the decision to, rather than take him on, I backed off, did away with the practice plans. Oh, and here's another thing, is that with cognitive delayed athletes, you can't do an after action review. You have to tell them like right after the play, literally freeze them and tell them what they did or what they needed to improve upon, how to do it. Okay, that's one thing. And the other thing is you have to keep things rather binary. You can't give them 3 or 4 things to do. They need to be an A versus a B, a C versus a D, a 6 versus a 9. See what I did there? So anyway, there's lots of different things that you got to do to keep things simple. So I made the determination after having a conversation with him, I was going to back off a little bit and see what would happen, because I did not need for it to get into nastiness. I was taken advantage of the rest of the season, and a lot of talking behind my back, an absolute lack of discipline on defense. Would not teach it. We run a 2-3 zone because they're not disciplined enough to be able to run a man-to-man scheme. They don't know how to switch. They'd have a hard time matching up with who their opposite player is. It's at that level. If I had a JV team or a varsity basketball team on at a high school level, I'd be running man to man. There's no need to do a zone unless I've got kids that just can't even. They just don't have the foot speed, or they don't have the They don't have the basic, right way to say this in a nice way. They just don't have the basic fitness level. Yeah, the basic fitness level to be able to hang with people being as they're dragged all around the court. On offense, tried to keep it very, very simple, where there was basically, I wanted to make sure we were going to run a 5-out, make sure that they weren't going up, we didn't have to have the ball going up the sideline or having to enter on the baseline, because what this genius coach didn't understand is he was basically making it very easy for the other team to utilize the sideline or the baseline as a sixth defender. What he was doing was he was allowing them, all the other four, to flood the lane and creates the spacing issues from hell. Now, being that he was such a genius, I kind of thought he'd get this pretty quick. Not. He was in the river. He was on the river to Nile constantly. So created massive problems. We have a 6'5" big, fantastic, great feet. Was working in a phone booth. He had people up against him because they brought the defense collapsed into him because everybody went to the basket before the ball really was ready to go in. So what I taught them to do is to get the ball to the top. That's the ignition of the car. Then we get people not going in, but cutting across. So I had a high cutter and a low cutter, and the two upper wings would come in for support in behind the and trail the play. So if they got cut off, got into trouble, they can get the ball back out and start over. I insisted on a lot of ball rotation, which makes the defense move laterally. And those of us that understand what the hell we're doing, excuse my French, would insist upon that. Again, genius coach didn't really think that was a thing. But he had neat things that he would, like buzzwords he would use and set plays he wanted to do. And he had no time for the basics. So this team screwed up the basics left and right. I'm literally coaching in tournaments, trying to salvage it. Trying to salvage their ability to play solid defense, but an active and frenetic defense, quite frankly, but then also on offense to have some type of a flow. What happened is at Penn State, by the time we were at Penn State, we were still playing street ball. So in a way, I lost the team. But here's the thing. They all knew they were lost. They wanted to hear from me. They were afraid of getting on this other guy's bad side. One of the players was dating his daughter. I can't really blame him. But they all came up to me after the season very frustrated. And the one that was the most frustrated and almost quit was Captain America. The guy that bailed us out in every single game. We could have lost every single game if he'd gotten hurt, or if he'd just decided to give less than 150% effort. Not 110, 150. We're talking like man level. This man manned up. He squeezed the pouch and they responded, as I like to say. Very proud of that young man. But he did things he should not have had to do. And so I had to talk him out of, on the bus back, I had to talk him out of resigning and giving up and going to another county. We almost lost him. Because he doesn't want to play 1-on-5. What felt like 1-on-9. Nobody knew what they were doing. Now I want to let you know that before COVID and before this genius showed up, I could run the scout offensive player. I could play like I was the guy It was it was the point guard, and no sick handles or nothing, but I got some endurance, and I move around. So I got them in a 2-3, packed nice and tight. The arms are up, frenetic, just kicking butt. And so what ended up happening was, like, I couldn't get the ball in at all. And that went away. He undid all the good work that I had done. And we had a flow that made sense. Balanced scoring, everything else. All this stuff went away. So long story short, there are times when you try real hard to get the guy, to reach the guy, and you can't. And so when there's an insubordinate coach, you realize it's a pink slip. And it has to be. And it has been. So just some advice from a middle-aged coach. Please comment, subscribe, ring the ring, do the ringy dingy thing, all the things I always ask you. Please engage with this channel. It would really, really help. And I will be back next Monday. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video. So please, underneath. See ya!